of a lecture. So I like to hear what you're finding and hear what's coming up for you doing this, and what you like and you don't like, and what makes sense or doesn't make sense. Anything.
A lot more flowing with the water aspect instead of what we normally do with the pushing.
Right. When you start actually engaging this sort of way, in this very dynamic way, it feels more fluid, doesn't it? Yeah, it does to me too. Brad, you said something interesting about that too. What?
Well, we were talking about adapting to a mode of uke, and that sometimes I found myself starting off in this pushing style and finding that I have to adapt into more of a water style to follow uke and to enforce the technique. We were finding that we would sometimes be doing ground on one side and water on the other.
Exactly. Your body will start just taking over what's appropriate at the moment. And what you said about extending the time is very interesting to me, because I hadn't conceived of it that way. But really, when you get into this dynamic with water, it does. Because if you get a hold of him, you put your hand on him, and if I'm pushing him and I'm doing the earth thing, the hand's going to break loose. But when you go and do the same basic thing, and it's water, you're going to be stuck to him all the way. It's going to maintain this sense of contact as far as it'll go. I mean, it's like stretching out the moment of delivery of energy into a very long plane of action for you, which it can be a useful thing. It can also be useful to shrink it down to a very tight moment of time and continue memory delivery energy too. And that's what happens next. But I want more feedback from what you've already done first. So, anything else?
I find that the kind of blade edge has a sharper effect on position with a really good corner.
That's right.
And then just kind of meld and have a good solid cover back in.
And so it has that penetrating sort of quality to it.
Something to get him to fight, and then you just kind of let go and then just.
Right. Did you try it with a release, or were you just
It was pretty much all releases for us.
Cool. The first time I did the fire form of it as like a number one release, so number one release normally, earth, right? And I said, man, what would be an extreme fire form of it? Let's go very slow. But not only are you invoking a line, you're invoking a line with the feet, you're invoking a line with the edge, and you're basically, boom, it's all over immediately. There's no big dance around thing at all. And it's a lot like number one of Yankai, right? It's that first sharp edge that everything gets wiped out in. I was really fascinated by that. But see how it sort of minimizes the time where you're controlling it too. That there's just this moment of impact.
In Yonkata, be fair to say the first two are fire, the second two are earth, and the last two are water.
Maybe so, or at least beginning with fire.
Yeah.
Because if we say the first element, boom, and then we get later into it, and we're going to do the recovery thing, definitely a watery thing happening there, you know? So yeah, you can start piecing that together with your kata and saying, well, look what this is, look what that is, you know? Different applications happening at different times. Anything else you found that you liked or you didn't like that made you scratch? Yeah, everything gets.
And then kind of like the end result, kind of both as one.
Right. But we're not walking around getting in our head going, everything must always be, because you get that sometimes. You get people that get dedicated to, well, this is what the kata says to do. So now I get in Randori, and I'm out here going, damn it, it ain't working. That's a fuck, you know, it pisses you off. Because you're all geared around doing it just like what the kata says. But we haven't unpacked the kata in the broader perspectives of what it's doing. Often we haven't studied the higher katas, or we haven't opened out what the different deliveries of energy can be. Cool. Anything else? No? Okay. So, now, Gleason didn't go into this, nor did Ledger. But what I noticed was, well, if I started thinking, well, what the hell is wind? And you see it translated in wind as with Musashi, as air. You also see it translated as heaven, implying clouds and lightning. Clouds and lightning, I kind of like that. When the Ueshiba used it, he would often refer to heaven as the element. Okay? And that, to me, in my mind, went back to my subconscious when I would play with people and it would be just a momentary touch, 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 touch. And you can do it with your whole hand, you can do it with your fingertip. When he's coming to touch me. Where you're just on them and off them in moments of contact. And you're depriving them of feedback. You're basically limiting how much feedback you're going to offer. When you do water, what are we doing? We're extending the feedback very long. Right? Long time. But here we're just giving them a moment. And controlling momentary points of contact. Just one or two fingers, or if you do it with your whole hand, that's fine. You can say, okay, I'm going to do the toe to toe. Has this sort of little patty cake kind of feel to it. And I urge you to try it with no more pressure in your hands than if you were dribbling a basketball. Okay? So if you try to do it with a lot of pressure, you go, bam, 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 bam. It'd be like the sumo guy shoving it, pop, pop, pop. You watch those guys, they hit each other like that. Not so much. We're more interested in that little dribble thing. This is a pulsing idea. Yeah?
Is your intent to stay underneath the subconscious feedback level?
I want to deprive him, I want to affect him, and also deprive him of anything to react to. And if you continually put it in a different place, his nervous system doesn't get a chance to react cohesively. And so it's a confusing of the proprioceptors, what's going on. There's momentary instigation of control. He comes to deliver energy. I give him something to work with that he has to start reacting to. As he starts reacting to A, it disappears, it goes to B, it goes to C, it goes to D, and all fall down. And it's less a technique, because you can't direct the technique so much. Uke is becoming far more the driver of the mechanism, because his reactions are determining where you're going next. And you're just placing a new stimuli on him continually. All right? Now you can also do this if you have contact already. Let's say we're in like an earth relationship and there's power bearing into it, and you just release the thing and then come back on it slightly. Because if we have a bridge developed, boom, both bridges, we've got power delivering at each other. You release this, you take all the power off, and then you dribble a basketball for a second. It has the same quality. So whether you actually break contact or not, you'll do the same quality job to it. You're going to have that little momentary strike. And again, that's when I start thinking, Ueshiba's lightning thing. Put the lightning on. And try this exercise. It's kind of interesting. Put pressure, break your unbendable arm, just bust it, and then dribble a basketball. Try not to whack it harder than that, and just see what the effect is in his body. And it can be any relationship. This is just an easy one to see. Cool. Got enough to work with? Does that kind of get the picture in your head? Any question of what I'm talking about? Might do it with fingertips, might do it with your whole palm, might do it with the edge. Doesn't matter too much what surface now, but I think about it as a point. So if we've talked about a flat plane, we've talked about a line, we've talked about a geometric curve, now I'm talking about a point. And a point that's only existing for a snap in time. Not existing like a point on a dot that's going to stay there forever. I'm not just going to hold this point like, oh, I'm just going to kill him with my finger. No. Not like that. You can do some of that. Sometimes you touch him with just a finger and hold it a long time. But you slip off and poke him in the eye or something, that's not too fun. But more often, it's just a point that's just like dotting an eye. Cool?